Hey everybody, back for another short segment. A couple of days ago there were some pictures that came out through Reddit. There's a user there who goes by the handle of UUZ, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. Anyhow, so there were some very clear photos taken of the interior of a Model 3 release candidate that was supercharging, and we got some really clear shots of the interior. So I thought, you know what, let's take a few minutes and just go over some of the clear details on this, and I'll give you my observations here. So, first one is the forward-facing camera. I'll put a picture up here and you can see it. So you can see here that there's the four forward-facing cameras for the autopilot system. The little circle on top is the rain sensor for automatic windshield wipers. And the little horizontal lines you see across there are defrosters for the autopilot camera system, so that to make sure that frost and snow and stuff don't build up on this. Now in the next picture we get a very clear look at the charge port that's open, and interestingly enough, this was reported some time ago for the first person who actually took a picture of the charge port. He described it, we never actually saw it, was the indicator for the charge. In this case it's a lighted T logo, or the Tesla logo, in the lower left hand corner, or on the left hand side of the charge port. And he had described it that it changes color, of course, and it pulsates just like it does on the Model S. So what we're looking at here is a slightly different take on the charge indicator compared to a Model S, and a little less expensive to make, of course, because we're only dealing with maybe 2 or 3 LEDs in there that can change color rather than a whole ring. And I've seen a few Model S's where the charge port ring tends to fail over time and stuff, so hopefully this is better. Now I know there's been a lot of comments on the internet about this charge port looking a little flimsy. Again, I don't have any details on this, whether the actual arm on it is metal or it's plastic, but I trust that warranty on Tesla's case will take care of this if it turns out to be not as reliable. Now, of course, don't forget, Tesla has changed the charge port on the Model S several times to accommodate any deficiencies. Like they've had some problems with the magnets falling off, and eventually they made the door completely motorized, open and close. So if they find that there's problems, this is something they'll fix later on, so I'm not too worried about this. Now in this next shot is really quite interesting because we get a chance to see the glass panel in the roof of the car. Now this is the one section that Tesla has said in the past that is going to be an optional glass panel, a sunroof, and potentially metal, although I think metal is probably not going to happen at this point. Anyhow, you can see that it's tinted, and the part that really gets me at this point is we're looking at a liner that looks very, very close to Alcantara. Now that's a brand name for a faux suede, and if you look at a current Model S or Model X, it's that suede type material in there. The reason I say this is my opinion, is because it looks like there's a lot of little fingerprints and stuff, and if you know anything about faux suede or the Alcantara, is that when you touch it, it has a very short pile, so when you touch it, it leaves little finger marks and stuff. So those of you with OCD are going to go crazy over this. But I think it's nice. It gives the interior a little classier touch than you would normally find otherwise with cloth. I hope to see other colors down the road. I prefer to much have a black liner, but you know what, beggars can't be choosers at this point. So a couple other little things. You can see here that there's the dome light overhead. Looks like 2 buttons to turn on the lights. I have been told that the hazard button is somewhere in that vicinity too, so don't know exactly where it is at this point. It could be the middle button is actually the hazard. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. And if you look closely, I'll zoom in here in the picture a little bit, you can see what looks like to be another dome light for the passengers on the rear cross members. Also on the A-pillar, which is the part that goes up by your head, you can see the speakers. And now, of course, we know that the dash is completely flat. There's no accoutrements on the dash. There's no buttons. So where would you normally put the speakers? I've seen cars before where they put the speakers in the lower part of the A-pillar. It's interesting that Tesla's put them up on the upper part on this one. I think it's also important to note and to point out here that the seat belt adjusters are movable on this, unlike the current Model S. The Model X has it, but they've actually put this in the Model 3 as well. So those of you who need some shoulder adjustment for the seat belt, you'll be happy to see that they are indeed adjustable. Not going to talk too much about the seats. I don't particularly think at the $35,000 price point that we're going to see leather in this case. I think what we're looking at is the same smooth part of the material that Tesla uses on the base seats in the Model S, what they call multi-pattern. In this case, they're just using the smooth part. So we'll have to reserve judgment to see how comfortable they are when they come out, but it's nice to see that it's not a physical cloth, it's more like a fake leather. Again, I was told sometime a while ago that the interior will be black to start, and that white and tan were spotted somewhere inside the factory, so we'll see whether those make it to production eventually. I have a feeling they will, but in due time, not the initial run of the cars. Here's another really great shot of the interior, and it clearly shows that we're getting Alcantara, which is the faux suede again, as an insert on the doors. There's another shot in here that shows that the door handle has changed. There's no button like it was like on the Alpha prototype. There's a button on the actual grab handle that opens the door. In this case, it looks like it's been moved. We believe that it's actually in the top part of the door handle. Looking forward to seeing the final car to see exactly the final placement, but just a different take on this. I think in a lot of ways the interior on the Model 3 really represents Tesla's attempt at fixing some deficiencies compared to, say, the Model S. Like, for example, the cup holders in the Model 3 are positioned ahead of the armrest. That's great, because on the Model S, they're right in the armrest themselves. It's a really bad location. Looks like we're actually getting more storage, of course, in the door pockets on the car. That's really important, because the Model S, of course, doesn't have any door pockets. We're getting larger storage in the center console between the passenger and the driver. The other thing that I've noticed, of course, with the Model 3 compared to the Model S is that the armrests are flatter and they come out a little further. It's one thing that I found with the deficiency on the Model S is that the armrests on the doors are actually angled down a little bit, and they're kind of narrow, so they're not terribly comfortable. So I'm glad to see that they've taken some time to refine some of these things. Once again, just to point out in case you missed it, the Model 3 does not have a dedicated stalk on the steering column for autopilot. The autopilot activation has been moved over to the drive selector. I'll point it out here and you can see that the icons are at the bottom. Again, we get a good shot of the steering wheel. I know it's been a bone of contention for a lot of people on the internet. They don't particularly like the design, and you know, to each their own. What is important, of course, is that they've moved some of the buttons or eliminated the buttons. Voice control has been moved. It's on the center screen, of course, right by the driver. So now we have a button on the screen to activate voice commands. Again, we're seeing dual climate control buttons on this and buttons to activate the seat heaters. And finally, the location of the glove box has finally been solved. It is on the lower right-hand side of the screen. I'll zoom in on it. You can see it very closely here. That is indeed the glove box opening button. I saved the best for last, and I think this is probably one of the most important pictures that were taken about the Model 3 interior, and it clearly shows the Model 3 charging, and we can actually see the charge rate, but most importantly is what appears to be the markings on it that shows us the current capacity of the battery pack as it's charging. I think this kind of explains why most of the Model 3s that have been spotted that they wouldn't allow anyone to take pictures of the interior of the car, or they threw a jacket over top of the screen, especially when it's charging, because you could potentially divine the size of the battery pack, and that is what looks to be precisely what we're seeing here. There's been a lot of talk on the internet, including myself, and some speculation as to what the size of the battery pack is or what the capacity is. There's been a lot of measurements taken of this graphic to try and divine what is the actual size of the battery pack. What we're looking at here is the little white dotted line that you see on there represents the 90% maximum charge point of the battery. Now that is user selectable. You can set it where you want. Tesla usually recommends 80 to 90%. So if you take that into account and you do a rough measurement based on the green portion showing 95 miles currently charged on the battery, that we're looking at, drum roll, potentially a battery pack that can go in excess of 300 miles on a charge. Now, again, you have to keep in mind here, charge rates change depending on where you are in the battery pack, but it's looking very good that we're going to get a large battery pack. Again, the consensus is we're getting some conflicting information. It's either 70 or 75 kilowatt on the high end. So we'll see how that plays out. Only Tesla and EPA can actually make that final determination. So it's looking good for the high-end battery pack. Now on the low-end battery pack, it's been rumored to be about 60 kilowatt hour. I'm not really going to throw any numbers because my math is not really good at that, but it will be a little less, but it's looking really promising for those of us who want a larger battery pack on the car. Lastly, I'll just throw out a quick word about the user interface. I think we're looking at what is almost probably final on the user interface section, and we're looking at a small 1/3 of the screen showing you car controls or overhead, and it's probably where the autopilot information is also going to be displayed on this car. It's not shown in this particular screen, but we still expect to see the speedometer and that pertinent information in the top left-hand corner of the screen. The rest of the screen is going to be changing based on whether you have navigation on there, maybe a rear view camera on there. We don't have an icon for the rear view camera at this point, so we don't know if that's going to make it to the final production. But things like navigation and your media selection and your settings and stuff will come up on the right-hand side, as well as your charge screen and stuff. So it's looking better. We're getting a clearer look of what things are coming down the road. So in a lot of ways, this represents a different direction, of course, with Tesla, because when you go to a horizontal screen, you got to rethink the user interface a little bit. So anyways, looking forward to seeing what the final result will be. I'll put links to the pictures in the show description so that you can look at them yourself if you want. Go ahead and comment on the bottom. Obviously with these pictures, I can't go over every single little detail. I just tried to sort of cherry pick with the ones I thought were kind of important. Anyhow, that's it for today. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Model 3 Owners, and be sure to check out our forum at model3ownersclub.com. And if you have a few minutes, I'd really appreciate it if you take a look at our Patreon page at patreon.com/Model 3 Owners Club. Every little bit there helps keep the channel going. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that like button on the way out. Anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, some really cool Model 3 t-shirts show off your cred. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.